I'm curious, how long does it typically take after an experience for the first integration session to take place? And what might happen in the meantime between the end of the experience and the first integration session for the client to perhaps prepare for it?
So the integration session begins immediately after the experience.
What is immediately? Because it can be difficult to say at what point exactly is the experience over, because it's a transition, right?
Yeah, immediately the moment the client can sit down and start talking.
Oh, right. So there might still be very much on the influence.
Yes. Yeah. This helps them to solidify lots of things that they have experienced. There are two things happens here. One is that the things that they immediately remember, they are able to put out there and we have many resources available to them. There's no one forcing. We invite them after whenever you feel like. We'll sit here, we have a specific number of hours and we have cleared out the day usually when we do that. So we sit back and relax and wait until the client is ready to speak. Or until the client is not ready to speak. So we wait until the client stand up and say what they want to do. I have never had a client who said, I don't want to use this creative energy. So they immediately go into an immersive world that we don't understand nothing about. But I saw this. I was like, I want to write it here. I saw this one. I want to put it here. I felt my grandmom's consciousness here. I want to put my goals here. I felt my power here. So they do all that kind of work.
Sorry, just for clarity, how can I imagine that setup? So it sounds like you said we, so there's some people, not just you on your own, and there seems to be different areas. So this is a group setting, or does this experience happen one-to-one? There seems to be an area where the experience happens, but also there seems to be open access to an area where they can start working on it. So how can I imagine that setup?
Yes, so you can think about it as a consultation room and then also having a lobby outside, something like that. And then I will always have someone in the lobby who can prescribe medicine to the client in case of an emergency. So they stay there, and also any other medical emergency occurs, because I'm not a medical doctor. So they remain in the lobby space in case if anything is necessary. And then I also usually have, so if the client is a female client, so I am male, I also invite a female therapist to be present with me, because we balance the energy as a feminine and male energy. And also there's let's be frank, when we go deep into our mind, we explore certain sexual spaces as well. So sometimes we come out with those, and then balancing this energy is very important, because it's a suggestible environment, like I said. So having that space for the client to be sure that, I don't necessarily say that, okay, if you're female gender, you have to have a male gender, anything like that. But what I mean to say is, here, when you have male energy, female energy, it balances out to a certain extent. I don't think the science can explain that, but that's how I see it. And it's very helpful, extremely helpful. And I see why I'm doing that. And there's a reason for that. So we do it like that. That's usually the most of the time. There will be like 3 people, and if the person prefers to have someone like a partner or caregiver or someone, they also can wait in the lobby area.
So have someone close that you trust, just to create more comfort, more safety.
Yeah. At the time the client goes through the experience, they have lots of the preparation, they're ready, they trust us, all of that. Now, Yannick, also just to mention that earlier, there was this little thing that we touched base upon, right? Like when we look at the world from a perspective of that relatives, loved ones, right? We see them as sometimes people who may disrupt our peace or have problems and all of that. At the same time, there's also people who have relationships who truly aligned in their relationships. And many of the people that I work with are like that. Their relationships are beautiful. They have, like, including my own relationships. So when I said I was with loved ones, I received the most beautiful support, and they created the most beautiful space, and they knew already the kind of journey I was going through. So it's pretty much the same for the loved ones that my clients are talking about. They would have someone who can hold them for who they are. And most of the time, it's like if the husband took the experience, he sees the value So he brings the wife because he's already in a place of healing. So that's how our clientele works as well. Most of the time it comes through known people. So there's a lot of trust. But we create a space where the client feels they're comfortable. Sometimes the client would say, okay, I just want to do with the female and that's it. I don't want anyone else outside. So it's all right. We will go down and wait in the downstairs lobby for you then. So that's what we do. Yeah.
Gotcha. Right. So then as soon as the client kind of comes out into is that also in the lobby, or is there a separate room where they start the work? Or do they just kind of sit up and there's people present?
Yes, so it's a dark room. It's a very nice, not dark necessarily, nicely lit room. And then we usually also invite the client to wear a headgear like you. And so it's like cut the noise. And we also have blindfold.
Eye shades as well, or?
Yeah, blindfold as well, blindfolded. And then we also tell the client if the person would like complete privacy, we're happy to leave the room and stay outside by the door open just in case if they need it. I usually do not hold my clients during the experience unless they reached out to me. So I don't sit too close to them either. I create some space and then, but I would not hesitate if they needed it. I always tell them, you can bring your hand out, I'll come and hold you, because it's not like they're unconscious during the experience, except for a few moments that they feel really drowsy, but anyone can anytime slowly come up if they wanted to, right? So I create that space. And it's mostly driven by the client. So usually client would say, no, I just only want this person, I'll be with that person. So we respect it.
Right.
Yeah.
So then integration might start immediately, but it could also start later. It depends a little bit on where the client is and what kind of frame of mind they're in.
Yes. So if the client said, I don't want to do it right now, we make sure the client is safe. We won't let them alone, because we also have had situations sometimes. So like earlier you asked why the knowledge of therapy is important. Like sometimes clients might experience or recall an experience that might not necessarily directly theirs. So they might have a sense of something, like for an example, violent assault that happened to them. Might even be generational. It might pop up in certain energy. I'm not saying seeing it or remembering it, but it shows up in the experience. So now client comes out of the experience with trauma, experiencing trauma. There's a response to it. So knowing this might mean many things to the client, right? If the client is extremely shattered, they might want to hurt themselves. Very rare, extremely rare, right? Extremely rare. Never has happened to me as such, but it is a possibility. Right? So that's why we use science to make sure that we have got all the grounds. So because of this reason, we make sure the client is safe and monitoring the client or the patient. And apart from that, usually they come out of it and say they want to create. So usually they do things, sculpt something, start writing, journal, start recording themselves, mostly we also encourage them to like a sensory experience a little bit. Like if you want me to go into nitty-gritty details. So we also help the client to create a psychological anchor to the experience. So anyone can use this as a tip even. So what we do is, because depending on the elevated energy they're in, if they recognize it as creative, valuable for them, empowered, if these are the keywords that come around when the clients speak, then we invite them to a small sensory experience if they feel like, because most of the time they're also a little bit hungry after the experience, brain energy a lot. So we tell them like a little bit of like lavender tea or smell of eucalyptus or a small piece of chocolate. We invite them to experience that and then feel the taste and connect it with the feeling and the emotion and also the electromagnetic changes that happen in our body. And then we invite them, whenever you feel a little bit anxious, you want to tap back into your energy, go take the same lavender tea. You will be able to recall some of those memories and connections and build a little bit of feeling. So we do that a beautiful, soothing, like really safe space. Everyone pretty much, including us, in like very comfortable.